Welcome back to Canard Boulevard. My name is Scott. Today we have a trip that was so well planned in advance. It was planned months in advance. We're going to be flying up north of Toronto to a small city called Barrie, where we're going to be attending my nephew's wedding. This has been planned for months. We've got all the customs taken care of. The weather looks good, and things are not going to go to plan. In fact, things go very, very wrong during this trip, and I have to make some very tough decisions as a result of it. But all of that is ahead of us right now. We're just going to fly up there. It's a reasonably nice day. The visibility isn't so great, but we're going to hop in the plane here, and this is a 7.5 to 8 hour drive. We're going to do it in just over an hour and a half in the airplane. This is what this airplane is really for. Absolutely love it for this. So now we are doing the run-up and getting ready to take off. Join me on my trip, my ill-fated trip to Barrie, Ontario for the wedding and the trip back that almost wasn't.
Medina traffic, experimental cozy 797 Delta Lima departing 27.
I made a couple changes on the audio panel to try to get a cleaner signal into the recording, and in doing so made it much worse that when I transmit I get a distorted signal, so I'm going to have another look at that and get that fixed.
Alright, 2200. Everything's in the green. There's speeds alive. There's 40. There's 50. There's 60, 70, and rotate. And gear up. VX.
Climbing out here, you can see that the sky ahead is kind of cloudy. There is a high overcast, a lot of haze, but the weather is actually good. There is a system out to the west. Now this is a Thursday. We're flying up Thursday. The wedding's on the Friday. Saturday we're just going to spend some time with family. Sunday we're going to fly home. The weather looks great because flying out there, the weather is coming in behind us. Friday, the weather will move up, but it's not actually going to affect the wedding until later in the day. So the wedding will be dry, and it turns out that's exactly what happened. The rain held off. Saturday, the rain should move through. Sunday, cold front pushes all that stuff through, and we should have fine weather for flying back home. At least that's what the weather forecast is, and I expect no issues.
Hey, Cleveland, experimental cozy, November 797 Delta Lima.
November 797 Delta Lima, Cleveland first.
797 Delta Lima is off of Medina, and we would like flight following at 9,500. Destination is Charlie Yankee Lima Sierra, and type is a cozy, Charlie Oscar Zulu Yankee.
November 7 Delta Lima, squawk 4621.
4621 7 Delta Lima.
November 7 Delta Lima, your radar contact about 3 miles east of Medina Airport. Maintain VFR 9,500. One more time, what's your type aircraft and destination?
7 Delta Lima type aircraft is a Charlie Oscar Zulu Yankee. Destination Charlie Yankee Lima Sierra. And is 7 Delta Lima cleared through the Bravo?
7 Delta Lima, clear to Bravo at 9,500.
7 Delta Lima cleared through Bravo 9,500.
So I did notice they cleared me to climb to 9,500, but that would have put me right inside the Bravo, which they had not cleared me to do, so I just confirmed that I was cleared into the Bravo before I blasted into their airspace. So this is a typical flight going back up to Canada for me. I go along the coastline until I get to about Dunkirk, and then I will turn north. This time, instead of going west around Lake Ontario, I'm going to go kind of clip it right across, and I'm going to sit at 9,000 feet and hope that Toronto ATC lets me overfly Toronto. Normally they won't. It really depends on how they're handling traffic and how busy they are, what the winds are doing. I thought I'd give it a try this time. Usually they turn me left or right and send me either to the east over Oshawa or to the west over Kitchener, but we'll give it a try and see what happens. And what do you know? They let me fly right over Toronto, so I got a good panoramic look at the Toronto cityscape, including the CN Tower and the Sky Dome there, or whatever they call it now. So that was kind of neat to see. And then not too much longer, we are starting our descent into Barrie. It's not too far north of Toronto. It's an hour and a half drive, but by airplane, it doesn't take that long at all.
Thanks, Simcoe traffic. Experimental November 797 Delta Lima is downwind 10, full stop. Lake Simcoe.
Lake Simcoe traffic, Sierra Juliet Charlie turning right base, runway 10, stop and go.
And Lake Simcoe traffic, Papa Golf Yankee is down and cleared the active.
I had looked on the chart ahead of time to make sure that it was right or left traffic going in here, and it wasn't notated, so I figured it's left traffic. But then I thought, you know what, I'm going to check just to be sure because things are done a little bit differently in Canada, so I checked the Canada Flight Supplement on Garmin Pilot, and sure enough, it showed for runway 10, it's right traffic, so I'm glad I checked that. So as you can see here, I'm doing a right pattern, setting up for runway 10, going into Barrie. And the thing is, flying this Canard, you can see the sides are up fairly high, so it's kind of hard to see to the right. So it's tough to judge the pattern when you're doing right patterns in this airplane, just because you can see I'm stretching to look out.
Traffic, Sierra Juliet Charlie on final, runway 10, stop.
Simcoe traffic, experimental November 797 Delta Lima, right base 10, legs go, full stop.
Once you get into a right turn, then you can see, but when you're flat in the pattern, it's kind of tough to see exactly where you are in relation to the runway.
Lake Simcoe traffic, experimental November 797 Delta Lima, final 10, full stop. Lake Simcoe.
Lake Simcoe traffic, Sierra Juliet Charlie overshooting, runway 10 for the circuit.
$500.
Passenger carriage switches.
And you might notice the skies are nice and clear here. You can see the nice blue sky, it's a sunny day. The farther we got away from that system that was rolling in from the west that we escaped when we were leaving Ohio, the clearer and nicer it got outside. So that was nice. Most of this flight was in pretty decent visibility and weather. So on the ground, and we taxied in, unpacked all our bags. My brother, who is the father of the groom, came and picked us up. Actually, he dropped off a car for us to use, which was very nice of him. So once we got all the bags out of the airplane, we went and had a little bit of tour of Barrie, had some dinner before we called it a night. Because this was a very long runway, they have big jets coming in here. I didn't really use my brakes. I just coasted all the way down to the far end because that's where we were going to park anyway. The FBO called me up before I was even on the apron to ask me what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go. And here came the first problem. This is a problem that we have with Canards all the time, every time they try to marshal us into a spot. And you'll see what's about to happen.
Lake Simcoe traffic, experimental November 797 Delta Lima, clear 10.
797 Delta Lima, it's Lake Simcoe Unicom. Are you looking for fuel today or parking?
We'll be parking until Sunday.
Stand by and I'll give you a tie-down spot that you can go to.
Thanks.
.797 Delta Lima, it's Lake Simcoe Unicom. We're going to send a guy out to marshal you into a tie-down spot.
Delta Lima, thanks.
And now you can see the marshaller there, who's standing expecting me to turn around and park just like every other airplane. I'm trying to tell him, hey, no, this isn't the way I go, and he's not getting the message. I figure, okay, I'm going to need to call the FBO and have them radio to him because he's obviously doesn't know how to park a Canard. I guess they don't see them there often.
Would you let marshaller know that I go in backwards?
797 Delta Lima, it's Lake Simcoe Unicom. Can you say that again?
Just let him know that I park backwards this type of aircraft if he's wondering what's going on.
Okay, I'll let him know.
Okay, got in, parked, shut down, everything was great. Off to the wedding.
Tomorrow.
Well, the wedding was a huge success. My nephew married his beautiful bride. It was just a lovely wedding. Everyone had a great time. Afterwards, we moved off into our rented Airbnb, just this beautiful house that a large portion of the wedding party and friends and family were all staying in. And that was our Saturday. It was kind of rainy and low ceilings and not very nice weather, but we didn't care. We just stayed inside. We made good use of the hot tub and had a good time.
The next day.
Well, the forecast for Sunday for our flight home was 3,500 and scattered. No rain, nice weather. We can get up above that thin layer and head on home. But what we woke up to was 300 overcast with lots of rain showers and embedded thunderstorms. Not exactly good flying weather. And that hung on all day long. I had to sit there and watch and wait to see if it was going to clear. There was a couple times where it looked like it might clear, but nope. This stuff just hung around all day long, and it was just like showers popping up everywhere, all the way from where we were, all the way home. Low ceilings, really low ceilings, like 300, 400, 500 feet, pretty much the entire way home, and it just persisted all day long. It didn't lift, it didn't burn off, so I'm doing the only thing I can do. Even though I have to be at work the next day, I scrapped this flight. We had to check out of the Airbnb, so we went and got a hotel room. The weather forecast for tomorrow, for the Monday, was actually much, much better. Looks like we'll get home no problem whatsoever. So we'll just bite the bullet, stay the extra night, and fly home on Monday.
The next day.
I woke up on Monday morning fully expecting to see the beautiful sunny 3,500 scattered that we had once again been promised, but when I looked outside, there was a cell tower outside that was 380 feet tall, and the top of it was in the clouds. Solid gray overcast of below 300 feet, and yes, embedded rain showers. That stayed all day long, all the way from where we were, all the way down to Cleveland. Low, low ceilings. I really had to put off the pressure that my wife was giving me to fly home because it simply wasn't safe. This is what the radar looked like pretty much for all of Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, along with low clouds and winds of 20 knots gusting to 40 knots, just really not conducive to safe flying. I know there was a lot of pressure to get her home, to get home for work. I knew we had to get home for Tuesday. No question. There was no question we had to be back for Tuesday. So I made the very hard decision to rent a car and drive home, leave the airplane there. That meant 7.5 hours of driving, and it all looked like this. Low ceilings.
The next day.
After a full day's of work, I got back in the rental car and drove back to Canada, another 5.5 hours of driving.
The next day.
And after a good night's sleep of 5 hours, at 5:30 in the morning, I got up and drove the rest of the way to Barrie to return the car and get to the airport. Pre-flight's complete, ready to take off. This is much better weather. Let's get the hell out of here. Something I didn't mention is that even though I had all the low ceilings, we also had a problem with winds because the winds were from the north at 20 gusting to 35 knots. And because it's from the north and this is an east-west runway, that means I would have a 90-degree crosswind on takeoff. And that's more than I can do in this airplane in terms of crosswind component. The cold front has moved through, so it's quite cold outside. The airplane is cold soaked, and so I have to sit here for quite a while and wait for the engine to warm up enough that I can actually do a run up and then take off. But those northerly winds are still there. I'm still seeing 15 gust 25 today directly from the north, and I am taking off directly to the west. So you're going to see me actually angle across the runway. I'm going to start on the south end of the runway and angle towards the north end diagonally across the runway just to decrease the actual crosswind component on takeoff.
90-degree crosswind. This is a fun one. Lake Simcoe Regional County Traffic. Experimental November 797 Delta Lima is departing 28.
So here's where you will see me taxi onto the runway, but stay very, very close to the left side of the runway and then point myself diagonally across to the right.
Everything to green, 2230, that's good. Airspeed's alive. There's 50. There's 60. 65. 70. And rotate. And gear up.
This airplane is an absolute rocket ship when it is cold outside. When you get that cold, dense air and the engine produces a little bit more power and the plane flies better and it just climbs so much faster. It's really noticeable.
Simcoe Regional Airport traffic, experimental November 7907 Delta Lima is departing the pattern to the southwest. Toronto, experimental November 7907 Delta Lima.
797 Delta Lima, go ahead.
7907 Delta Lima is just off of Lake Simcoe Regional. We have like 6,500 flight following, and we're going to head to Erie, Pennsylvania via Dunkirk.
Roger, altitude's at your discretion, squawk code 4347.
43477 Delta Lima.
My hopes for the return flight was that I was going to go right over top of Toronto once again, exactly basically the same route I took going up, but it was not to be. The controllers were really not accommodating today. They sent me way west over Kitchener around their airspace, which kind of screwed up my time going into Erie to meet my customs appointment, so I really had to push the speed up, which fortunately I had a 30-knot tailwind. I was seeing over 200 knots ground speed at some points. I did get close to Erie and had some delay vectors, so that didn't help, and then my camera quit recording for some reason, but I got into Erie. So I cleared customs. As you can see, I'm still in the customs red box in front of the customs building in Erie, and that was no problem. It only took about a minute and a half. So I'm ready to pull up the ATIS and then get my taxi clearance back out so that I can get home to Medina.
Roger that, we'll pass behind him. Cleared for runway 287 Delta.
And my recorder is still recording distorted transmissions.
November 7907 Delta Lima at Customs is ready to go. We'd like to flight following to 1 Gulf 5, 6,500 if we could, please. Type is a Cozy, Charlie Oscar Zulu Yankee.
And you said 1 Gulf 5, is that correct on the airport?
1 Gulf 5, affirmative.
And I'm sorry, just altitude one more time, please.
6,500.
7 Delta Lima, maintain VFR, departure frequency 121.0, squawk 5267.
5267 is 7 Delta Lima.
And 7 Delta Lima, understand you're ready to taxi now, sir?
7 Delta Lima, affirmative.
7 Delta Lima, runway 6, taxi via Foxtrot and Golf.
Foxtrot and Golf, runway 6, 7 Delta Lima. And 7 Delta Lima is ready to go on 6.
7 Delta Lima, roger, proceed on course, wind 01013, gust 15, runway 6, clear for takeoff.
Runway 6, clear for takeoff, 7 Delta Lima.
830, traffic is a Cozy, taking a runway for departure, advised in sight.
In sight, 830.
830, wind 35010, gust 15, runway 6, clear for the option.
6, clear for the option, 830.
Mobile 45, operations along runway 2 are approved, hold short of 6.
Alright, gas. Everything's in the green. Airspeed's alive. $60, 70, and rotate. You're up.
And 22 Mike, reset your transponder and disregard, stand by.
So the last leg on this trip home, I got above this thin layer. I thought this will only just exist for a short while, but I was wrong. It actually got thicker and thicker the farther I went, and it really started clouding up to a broken layer. So as I got close, I descended down below that layer, and I was actually surprised as I got close to Medina, my home airport. The bases of those clouds got pretty low. At some point, there were 1,500 feet, as you can see here, 1,500 AGL, so not too far above pattern altitude. It did clear up a little bit later in the day, but it was interesting to see those low clouds right over the airport. And of course, it's still a wind from the north, so I'm going to be landing on 01 at Medina, which is the uphill short runway.
Medina traffic, experimental cozy, November 797 Delta Lima, joining left downwind, runway 1, Medina, full stop. Alright, gear down. Gas and air switches, belts, heat off. Gears down. It is very gusty. Traffic experimental cozy, November 797 Delta Lima, turning base, runway 1, full stop, Medina. Speed breakdown.
$500.
At this point, I realized I actually extended my downwind out a little bit too far because I forgot just how strong the wind from the north is, so I'm just creeping my way back in.
Don't forget there's wires.
I always remind myself of that on this runway because there are wires there. They're not easy to see until you get right close on top of them. They do have some balls on them, but they're still hard to see against the trees and the grass.
There's the wires.
These power wires are really close to the threshold of this runway, and they really should move them. This is one of the reasons I probably would not come into this runway at night, just because those wires kind of scare me. And that brings to an end this rather ill-fated trip. I did learn a lot. I learned that stick to my guns. I have my personal minimums, both in terms of wind, ceiling, weather, and so on. And I was able to identify that the weather conditions in terms of all three of those exceeded my personal minimums for my return flight. So it was easy to decide not to fly because I made that decision a long time ago when I made those personal minimums. It's interesting that Garmin Pilot allows you to put those minimums in, and it will actually flag if either your destination or your departure airport exceeds those personal minimums, and that makes the decision easy. If you see the yellow triangle next to your departure or arrival airport, hey, that means you don't go, and the decision's out of your hands. It allows you to get away from get-homeitis and other outside pressures that may cause you to make a decision that you might regret later, a decision based more on get-homeitis and emotions and outside pressures rather than analyzing the weather and the conditions and your abilities of both you as a pilot and the aircraft. So everything turned out okay. It was a longer trip than expected, but hey, that's flying for you. Hope you like what you saw here. If you like, please click subscribe, and if you have any questions, comments, leave them in the comments section below. Thanks for watching.